And we're back. And we are back. But we're going to run the audio of of Senator Blackburn in a minute. But let me just say this to you. When you talk about Harvard, you talk about Yale, you talk about Cornell, you talk about Brown potentially. But Tennessee State does not rank high. That's not when you talk about Ivy League schools, I went to North Carolina A&T, so I'm not trying to throw shit. I'm just saying, stay in your lane, okay? Because it shows your lack of understanding of some key points. As recent as Wednesday, Senator Blackburn, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, took to the Republican choice of communication for the 21st century, Twitter. That's the choice of communications for Republicans. And she stated, let me get it right here. And she stated this: the Constitution grants us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not abortions. That's the Declaration of Independence. Same older gentlemen when they first founded the United States, but different document. The Constitution doesn't deal with the right to liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of just happiness. Doesn't. That's the Declaration of Independence. So, from a scholarly position, one would want to get those documents right. It's kind of like me comparing apples and oranges, okay? They're fruits, but, they're different. They have different purposes. They've got different writers. The Declaration of Independence does not apply to the state by way of the 14th Amendment. That's the Constitution. Technical difference, but very large. Now, political scientist Norman J. Ornstein tweeted, the Constitution sets forth the requirements for the Senate. Basic intelligence and common sense are not included. I didn't say that. Political scientist Norman J. Ornstein did. Now, I believe personally that Senator Blackburn would have been more comfortable in an area that she was familiar with. She's a beauty pageant winner, a graduate of Tennessee State University. She worked in event planning, and she was appointed, ready? Executive Director of the Tennessee Film and Entertainment and Music Commission. That's a big one. That's a big one. She was the director to determine who would be able to film in Tennessee. Wow. That's a little bit different than what Judge, I'm just calling it like I said, Judge Jackson was, big difference. Even though she went to Harvard, she was a federal public defender, and she served on two branches of the government, the U.S. District Court and the Court of Appeals. But, you know, but Marsha Blackburn was appointed. I mean, she ran and she was a U.S. representative for 16 years as a senator for 2019. Let me say this. I believe that Senator Blackburn would have been more comfortable discussing terms like at-large contestant. That's a contestant who did not compete at a preliminary pageant, but will compete for the national title. Or an appointed title, a title given to a contestant to represent an area or state during the national competition. She would have known that. Now, I'm going to tell you, Judge KETANJI Brown Jack, she would have known none of that. She wouldn't. Or what was the definition of boob glue? Similar to butt glue, an adhesive that's used to secure swimsuits during a pageant. Or the court. The runners-up, usually the top five, are referred to as the Queen's Court. But I know she would have handled this one. The 4 points of the crown. You don't know nothing about pageants if you don't know that. They're the core value of the Miss American organization: style, service, scholarship, and success. Okay? My point being, stay in your lane. Now, Senator, you have an able-bodied staff. Don't take to Twitter the unofficial communication of the Republican Party and cite the Declaration of Independence verbiage for the Constitution. Let your staffers look that up. Because what it does, believe it or not, one could say she didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Okay? And that doesn't look good when you're a senator. As well as, just stay in your lane. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I told you, Judge Brown Jackson would not have known none of them about the crown, the 4 core values of the pageant. She would have known that. And she would have said she didn't know that. Because that ain't in her league. So hopefully, the very next time that we see the beauty pageant senator, she will have done a little bit more research and allowed her staffers to better advise her than what she did. Okay, that's just a light to do that. Okay, because you are on worldwide TV, looking like you are not learned. When you want her to define what a woman is, you wanted her to go down that rabbit hole. You wanted to debate her about what a woman can be, about being transgender. Listen, one of the most challenging jobs of a judge is to apply a law that they may not agree with, but it's the law that's in place, to the facts and circumstances that are before the court, and to interpret that. You can't have one standard for Black people. You can't have one standard for white people. It has to be consistent. But irrespective of how you believe or how you feel about that law, you have to apply it. And you have to determine whether or not that law is constitutional or not. That's her job. Not to interpret fundamentally what is a woman. Not to go down a rabbit hole about the issue of is a transgender woman a woman? Well, listen. When laws were passed that recognized transgender women as women, they are. There are certain rights that they have as women. And there's certain privileges that they have. That's called the law. Now, who makes the law are the legislatures. In a state, the legislatures make state law for us to follow. Okay? So her examination was totally improper, if you ask me. She wanted to debate her, not about her ability to be a justice, but her political position on that issue. And then she would have said, you're not good enough because you did not interpret the law or interpret the question as you supposed to. We'll be back. I'm going to keep going.